Alive and alert on the north side of the dirt. It is your man D-Real Humming coming at you with another one of them Be Real with D-Reals where edutainment is what I do. It's Friday, y'all, so it's just kind of a potpourri about what I want to do. I was sitting around and I was researching, which is what I do a lot of. I was researching and an interesting question came up in the stuff that I was looking through because I was trying to find a relatable issue for what's been going on this week before, that kind of a thing. And the question that kept popping up in my head was, what made Black characters so unpopular? You don't think they're unpopular? Okay. They kind of are. But what I'm getting at has nothing to do with their unpopularity so much as it does the circumstances behind it and the impact those circumstances have on Black characters today. Now, before I get off into this subject, I need y'all to comment, like, subscribe, and share the Be Real with D-Real page so that you can get alerts when new material comes out and you can drive my algorithm ever upwards. And like I always say, if you're digging what a brother's shoveling, put some dirt in my bucket. Comment, like, subscribe, and share. Okay. Really quick. See this comic right here? This is X-Men number 266. It chronicles the first appearance of Gambit. And yeah, it might be worth a pretty chunk of change, but that's not what I want you to pay attention to. What I want you to pay attention to is this little thingy right here in the corner. You see what that, I don't know if y'all could see that. It says approved by the Comics Code Authority. Approved by the Comics Code Authority. Why in the do I need my comic book approved by the Comics Code Authority? Again, there it is. Right. I can't point right. Okay, right there. Comics Code Authority. So it ain't a Marvel thing. Here's a DC comic with the Comics Code Authority. Now, here's what had to happen. If you wanted your comic to reach maximum amounts of audience, the material and themes inside of that book had to be approved by the Comics Code Authority. Comics Code Authority popped up in the 50s. What else was going on in the 50s? Senate hearings revolving around Americans being communists, certain Americans being communists, certain activities being communists and or contributing to juvenile delinquency. Don't ask me why, but that's what the hell America was on in the 1950s. In the 1950s, in a comic book written by a Caucasian man, was asked by the Comics Code Authority to be redone because there was a Black man in a position of authority in this comic. Let me tell you how this story went down. It involves your man, William Gaines. And William Gaines was in charge of a company called Entertaining Comics, EC Comics, Entertaining Comics. For those who are really comicked out and know they comics, they know that William Gaines and EC Comics is what eventually went on to become what we now know today as Mad Magazine. William Gaines wrote a science fiction story in his comics where there were two different color aliens, and one color alien was treating another color alien with disrespect. So one group of aliens treating another group of aliens disrespectful, discriminatory. And this astronaut who lands on this planet and is observing these two groups of aliens and how they interact with one another, he's kind of like a guy from say something like the Federation. And they're trying to figure out if this planet is worthy to join the Federation. But after seeing how one group of aliens treats another group of aliens, astronaut decides, y'all ain't worthy to be in our Federation of Planets. And then this astronaut takes his helmet off and he is a black man. Okay. They demanded that he redo that comic book and take that black man out. This is the Comics Code Authority. This is the people who said, if you don't do what we want you to do in your comic won't see the light of day, or it won't see as many people as you would like it to see. This is the Comics Code Authority, y'all. The Comics Code Authority. The people you go to when you wanted your comic approved. Okay, they continued to have authority over people all through the 50s, all through the 60s, all through the 70s, all through the 80s. Now, let me tell you what was going on in the 60s. In the 60s, in 1966, I know I sound like a broken record, we saw the Black Panther. The Black Panther had about 4 appearances in the Fantastic Four, 52, 53, 54, and I think issue 60. That was Black Panther. And then he went over at the same time, he was in Tales of Suspense with Captain America. Then in 1968, he was in the Avengers. The Black Panther's run in the Avengers ran from about 1968 to 1974. And even with the Black Panther in comics during that time, he was still treated like, you ain't tough. You know, people just smacking him around, knocking him out the way, all of that kind of stuff. Until in 1973, a brother by the name of Billy Graham, no relation to the evangelist, started drawing Black Panther in a comic called Jungle Action. And Jungle Action ran for roughly about 18, 19 issues, and then it got canceled. Now, that was from 73 to 76. Then, from 77 to 79, Black Panther had his own comic drawn by none other than Jack Kirby. Now, from 79 on, there are no prominent appearances of the Black Panther. You got 2 limited series and 1 kind of ongoing story in an anthology comic called Marvel Comics Presents, and that story focused around the search for Ramonda, his mother, who we later found out was his stepmother, or it was retconned that she was his stepmother. Either way, in current continuity in comics, Ramonda's the stepmom, not the mama. Okay, not the mama. Remember that? Anyway, why is it that we don't see hide nor hair of T'Challa until 1998 in a regular series? Meanwhile, Power Man and Iron Fist is doing well. Luke Cage's comic book, Power Man, and Iron Fist comic, Iron Fist, got canceled. Why? Because in the late 70s, blaxploitation was on the way out, and only people who liked martial arts movies were watching martial arts movies, not everybody. Strangely enough, the combination worked. But I always was saying to myself when I looked at Iron Fist, why is Iron Fist a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Caucasian man? Oh, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Caucasian men can't learn martial arts? No, not saying that, but blonde-haired, blue-eyed men don't learn martial arts in mystical cities in another dimension that are occupied mainly by people of an Asian persuasion. I said Asian persuasion. Yeah, but what I'm getting at is this. Why is it until the event of Milestone Comics, we didn't see consistent Black characters in comics? You can go check. You can go read a bunch of comics. 70s, 80s, sparse. Black comic book characters were sparse and scarce, and you didn't see very much of them. I think a lot of that has to do with this story right here. And the Comics Code Authority may not have totally perpetuated this dynamic, but I think they had a hell of a lot to do with it. There are other factors involved in why. I mean, some of it is preference, but some of it is lack of understanding too. And I think a lot of artists, well, not artists, but writers have a huge lack of understanding when it comes to how Black and African-American characters should be portrayed. And so they end up either doing a poor job of portraying these characters or choose not to portray them at all. And we get right back to where we are right now. And that's what's happening right now. I fear the dynamic of what's going on with the recast T'Challa movement may potentially affect the comic continuity. As I said in a previous video, comic book patterns tend to follow movie patterns. Hence, the alteration of Blade's look, the alteration of the X-Men's look from cinematic to comic, storylines in movies that get transferred into the comics and they become canon in the comics. Currently, as I've said before, in movie continuity, T'Challa's dead. Do we want people who think like the Comics Code Authority that a character in a position of authority has no place in comics and we won't approve it? That was in the 1950s. Or was it? I'll be coming at y'all with another one of them other ones. And until I do, y'all be good. Be good to each other.